The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 teaser breakdown video. What I want to do today is address some of the comments I'm still receiving about the Crypts of Winterfell teaser HBO released a few weeks ago. Before we get started, I do want to make a quick announcement about the new giveaway that I want to do. I know there are a good bit of you who still haven't read the books. Since Game of Thrones is coming to an end very soon, I figured this would be a good time to do this because it will give someone the opportunity to get caught up with the source material. I will be giving away the complete A Song of Ice and Fire book collection, so if you are interested in this giveaway, just click on the link that is down below and follow those instructions. Good luck, everyone. Now let's get started. As I said before, what I want to do today is address some of the comments I have been receiving about the Crypts of Winterfell teaser HBO released a few weeks ago. When this new teaser came out, it left many people with a lot of unanswered questions. One of the questions has to do with the new statues that are down in the Crypts of Winterfell. In that video, we can see Jon, Sansa, and Arya as they are looking at their very own statues. Many fans have already said that it could be foreshadowing the death of Jon, Sansa, and Arya Stark. That actually does make some sense because we do know the type of threat House Stark is about to face. We know that the Night King is heading south, and we know he is heading their way. Not only that, but we also know what the Night King and his army of the dead are capable of. Jon, Sansa, and Arya could definitely die by the end of next season. However, just because we saw their statues down in the Crypts of Winterfell does not mean they are destined to die. What I mean by that is, this is not the first time HBO has done something like this in one of their teasers. Most of you should remember one of their teasers from Season 6. This was when HBO released their video about the Hall of Faces that is in the House of Black and White, where Arya Stark did her training with Jaqen H'ghar. In that Hall of Faces teaser, we see something very similar to what we saw in that Crypts of Winterfell teaser. Now, you do have to keep something in mind. This video came out right before Season 6 was released. What we can see in that video is a bunch of different characters' faces in the House of Black and White. We do know that these are the faces from characters that have already died. That Hall of Faces teaser begins just like the Crypts of Winterfell teaser. In the Crypts of Winterfell teaser, we can see Jon Snow as he walks past Ned Stark's statue. Then we can see Sansa walk past Lady Catelyn's statue. When they do this, we can also hear a few different quotes from Ned and Catelyn. Well, almost the exact same thing happens in the Hall of Faces teaser. We begin to see the faces of old characters that have died in earlier seasons. As they are showing their faces, we begin to hear some of their quotes from earlier seasons as well. Now let's take a look, that way you know exactly what I mean by this.
All this horror that's come to my family. It's all because I couldn't love a motherless child.
You are a Stark. The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword.
I've won every battle, but I'm losing this war.
So as you can see by those video clips, both of those teasers basically started out the exact same way. We saw and heard some of those dead characters speak. Now let's see how that teaser comes to an end. Like I said earlier, when that Crypts of Winterfell teaser came out, we could see Jon, Sansa, and Arya looking at their own statues. Many fans thought that this means those characters will die next season, but I don't think that is necessarily true. That's because HBO did almost the exact same thing for Season 6 when they released that Hall of Faces teaser. Now let's have a look.
The long night is coming. And the dead come with it.
In that video, we can see Jon, Sansa, and Arya's faces in the Hall of Faces at the House of Black and White. The interesting thing about this one is we can see the face of almost every main character from the show. They showed Tyrion, Daenerys, Jaime, Sansa, Arya, and many more characters. Now, as we all know, none of those characters died in Season 6. Although that is basically what HBO was trying to imply by showing their faces in the House of Black and White. So what does all of this tell us? In my opinion, just because we see Jon, Sansa, and Arya statues in the Crypts of Winterfell teaser, that does not mean they are guaranteed to die next season. Just like with the Season 6 teaser, HBO is hoping to generate some excitement by having all of us think these characters will die. Also, I don't know if any of you noticed it or not, but they even played very similar music in both of those teasers as well. Listen very carefully to the music and you might be able to notice it too.
I've won every battle. But I'm losing this war.
Show them how it feels to lose what they love.
Everyone is mine to torment.
Now there is one major difference in these videos that I do want to mention. Even though we saw all those main characters' faces in the House of Black and White, anyone with some common sense would have known that all of those characters could not have died during Season 6. Daenerys hadn't even made it to Westeros yet, and we knew that most of those characters' stories were nowhere near finished. But when it comes to the Crypts of Winterfell teaser, even though Jon, Sansa, and Arya statues might not mean that they will die, we do know their stories are coming to an end one way or another. Now the books are a completely different story, but their character arcs are coming to an end in the television show. I have already made some videos where I predicted which characters I think live or die, but since I'm talking about Jon, Sansa, and Arya in this video, let me tell you what I think happens to each of these characters next season. These three characters are a little harder to predict than some of the others because I can easily make a case for why they could die or why they could live. Now when it comes to characters like Samwell Tarly, Davos Seaworth, Gendry, and many others, I am confident those characters will survive the show. Then when it comes to characters like Cersei Lannister, Beric Dondarrion, Euron Greyjoy, and many others, I am confident that those characters will die before the end of the show. But then there are some of the other characters where I find myself constantly trying to guess how their stories end. When it comes to Jon Snow, I really think his story can go either way. Since Jon Snow has already died once, I would like to think that he will survive all the battles to come, but on the other hand, I could also see Jon getting killed before he would ever have the chance of living some kind of a normal life. Based on some of the things Game of Thrones has done in their previous seasons, I wouldn't be surprised if Jon Snow did die before he had the chance to find out who his parents actually are. Just because I am really hoping that Jon does find out the truth, I could see him getting killed off before he ever got that closure. Now I know that it does seem very unlikely that Jon would die before he finds out, because he is already on his way to Winterfell, and Bran is already there waiting for Jon to show up. But you know how these things tend to play out. If you remember back in the first season, Robb Stark was able to capture Jaime Lannister, and everyone thought that he could trade Jaime to get Ned released from the Black Cells, but we all know how that ended. Then in Season 3, we thought that Arya Stark was finally going to be able to reunite with her family, but as soon as she made it to the twins, her family was inside getting butchered. Then during last season, we think we're going to get all these amazing Stark reunions, but it just ends up getting really awkward and uncomfortable. Even Sansa and Arya were on the verge of killing each other. So even though it seems like Jon will show up in Winterfell and have all these amazing reunions and find out all that information, like I said, we know how these things tend to play out for House Stark. Obviously, I hope something like that does not happen, but I am preparing for the worst. When it comes to Arya Stark, most of you should already know what I would like to happen. I don't see Arya spending the rest of her life at Winterfell. She will either go west of Westeros like she has always dreamed, or she could settle down somewhere in the Stormlands with Gendry. That is, after Gendry is legitimized and given some land of his own. That would fulfill Robert Baratheon's wish from the first season, and that is joining the houses of House Stark and House Baratheon. Robert has a son, Ned has a daughter, they will join their houses. But I also tend to think that it might be too happy of an ending for her character. Arya Stark may already be too far gone for her character to have any type of ending like that. Not to mention, the future of Arya Stark may have been foreshadowed in the very first book, A Game of Thrones. They say that all the best clues for how the story will end can be found in that first book because the author, George R. R. Martin, initially only intended on writing a trilogy at first. Therefore, he should have planted most of his seeds in that book. Well, when Jon and Arya were still in Winterfell together, Jon says something to Arya that may have shed some light on how her story does end. In Arya Stark's very first chapter in the books, Jon Snow says this: "The longer you hide, the sterner the penance. You'll be sowing all through the winter. When the spring thaw comes, they will find your body with a needle still locked tight between your frozen fingers." Now you can interpret this however you would like, but I do find it interesting that Jon does make a reference to finding Arya Stark's dead body frozen in the snow. If George R.R. Martin did truly hide the clues for how these characters' stories would end in the first book, then what better place to hide it than in these characters' very first chapters? Let me know what you think about that one. Now when it comes to Sansa Stark, I would like to think that she would have the best chance of getting killed simply because she doesn't know how to physically defend herself. At least Jon Snow and Arya Stark know how to fight, but Sansa does not. From what we have seen, Sansa has never trained with a weapon. So when Winterfell gets surrounded by the army of the dead, you would think Sansa may find herself in some serious trouble if the castle gets overran. However, as I have said in some of my other videos, I actually think that Sansa will live and continue to remain as the Lady of Winterfell. They may have even been suggesting this in that Crypts of Winterfell teaser. When we see Sansa in that video, we can see that she is the one who walks past Lady Catelyn's statue, and as we all know, Lady Catelyn was once the Lady of Winterfell, just like Sansa is today. When I made my breakdown video, I also mentioned how that teaser came to an end. As we see that cold air creeping into the Crypts of Winterfell, we can see Jon and Arya pull out their weapons. If you look very closely, it does appear to me as if Jon and Arya are standing slightly in front of Sansa, almost as if they are protecting her. Since the battle will happen at Winterfell, and Sansa is the Lady of Winterfell, I imagine they will do everything in their power to keep Sansa as safe as they possibly can, knowing she cannot defend herself on her own. But anyways, let me know what you think. The main thing I wanted to show you today is the similarities between the Season 6 teaser and the Season 8 teaser. As I said before, just because we see those new statues down in the Crypts of Winterfell, it does not necessarily mean that those characters are meant to die. This is not the first time HBO has done something like that. Also, don't forget about that new giveaway. You can win the entire A Song of Ice and Fire book collection. Just click that link that is down below. I want to thank all of you for watching the video. The support lately has been absolutely off the charts, and I cannot thank you all enough. I truly appreciate that. I hope everyone has a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye.